back with my podcast for this week. I'd like to discuss something that has been discussed by me, bits and pieces in recent podcast episodes, but I'm having a real sense of what they call FOMO, fear of missing out, because there was this amazing, from what I've read and what I've listened to and what I've heard, conference called Recharging Judaism, led by Rabbi Amiel Hirsch, the senior rabbi at Stephen Wise Free Synagogue, a Reformed synagogue in New York City, which hosted the event. And Rabbi Hirsch gave a keynote address on the topic that I'd like to discuss in today's podcast, which is the future of in America of a seminary, a Jewish seminary that either ordains or accepts anti-Zionists. Now we have to break it down a little bit and describe what anti-Zionist means. And in order to do that, we have to describe what a Zionist is first. So a Zionist, by definition, is someone who supports the need for a Jewish homeland in the land of Israel, according to the biblical land of Israel. And what that means is looking back at the historicity, the archaeological evidence of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. And that does not mean other peoples weren't there. It has nothing to do with Palestinians or Muslims or Christians or Arabs or anything like that. What it has to do with is having a homeland for the Jews in Israel. That is what Zionism means. That's what it purports. That's what it assumes. A person who says that they are a Zionist, like myself, I am a Zionist. I say I believe in the importance of having a homeland for Jews in Israel. I want to read a post I put on Facebook yesterday to sort of explain a little bit more about what I'm trying to say. This is what I wrote yesterday. Let me be clear about one thing. The word Zionist is not a slur or bad word. By definition, being a Zionist requires one to recognize the importance of a homeland for the Jewish people in Israel. This does not mean there isn't a homeland for the Palestinians. Every person that lives in the Middle East should be able to live in their homes in peace and safety. Second point, Israel is not, by definition, an apartheid state. If it was, no Arabs, Muslim or Christian, would be able to serve in the army or the government. There would be no such thing as a Palestinian/Arab Israeli with Israeli citizenship and all of the rights that includes. Third point, genocidal. Really? If Israel is genocidal, they are really bad at it. In 2010, the Palestinian population in Israel-Palestine was around 4 million. In 2026, 16 years later, the Palestinian population is over 5.6 million. Lastly, criticizing the policies of the Israeli government, police, army, is not the same thing as being an anti-Zionist. As a matter of fact, as Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, her citizens are allowed to criticize and protest against the government. I know this for a fact because I was part of the protests in 2023 when I was in Israel for the CCAR conference, in which we were protesting against the government's judicial reform, quote unquote. I am a Zionist 100%. I also do not agree with many of the policies, or perhaps most of the policies, of the current Israeli government. However, at the end of the day, if there is no Israel, no homeland for the Jewish people, then another Holocaust, a true attempt at genocide, would be possible. So, what does all of this have to do with Rabbi Hirsch's keynote? At the Recharging Judaism conference that was being held at the Stephen Wise Free Synagogue in New York. Reform rabbis, cantors, educators, lay leaders, and lovers of the Reform movement gathered because they believe that North American Reform Judaism still has a future worth fighting for. And I'm paraphrasing now an article, an editorial written in the Times of Israel by Rabbi Samantha Kahn. She continues, "We gathered because we believe the Reform movement is not an institution to be managed into irrelevance, but a covenantal project to be renewed with courage, clarity, and love." The fact of the matter is, all Reform rabbis, let me rephrase that, the only Reform institution, seminary that ordains Reform rabbis in the United States of America is Hebrew Union College - Jewish Institute of Religion. There used to be 4 campuses: Cincinnati, which was the founding campus, New York, LA, and Jerusalem. The Cincinnati campus is it's no longer ordaining rabbis. Whether you want to say it's closed or not is up for discussion. There are some things that are, some remnants that are there. I think there are some retreats that might be scheduled for the Reform movement. There's definitely going to be some activity, but it is no longer what it used to be. And that's a whole nother blog for another time. Another podcast another time. Here is the problem. Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion, the seminary of the Reform movement, has been admitting and ordaining anti-Zionists. As a matter of fact, several of the most newly ordained rabbis in the last 2 to 3 years who are very, very much Zionist actually felt like they were in a minority, that they were being singled out because they were Zionists. Rabbi Kahn continues, anti-Zionism is not wrestling with Israel. It is rejecting the legitimacy of Jewish sovereignty itself. It is denying the Jewish people what Reform Judaism has for generations now affirmed, that Am Yisrael is a people, that our bond to Eretz Yisrael is not incidental to Jewish identity, and that the state of Israel is the central expression of Jewish peoplehood in our time. Rabbi Hirsch spoke about this with prophetic clarity in his keynote. And if you haven't seen his keynote or heard his keynote, I recommend you listen to it. It's some of the best 30 minutes or so of your life, intellectually stimulating, philosophically stimulating, ideologically stimulating. It is very important, and he speaks as a prophet. We have to have boundaries as liberal pluralists. We cannot be an organization of people, a community of people that says on one hand, next year in Jerusalem at our Passover Seder, and then in the same breath also says that it's okay to be an anti-Zionist. Wrestling with Israel, we've been wrestling since Jacob. It's incredibly important to wrestle with our thoughts and our ideas, our ideologies, the movements of Judaism, the government of Israel. Be critical of the government of Israel. I certainly have been. But being critical of the government of Israel, or being critical of members of the government of Israel, or being critical of policies of the government of Israel is not the same thing as being anti-Israel. And anti-Zionist is anti-Israel. Separate. You can be a Zionist and still believe that a homeland for the Palestinian people is a necessity. You can be a Zionist and also believe that everybody in the Middle East should have the freedom to live their lives peacefully, educate their children, feed their families. Israel is the only country in the entire Middle East that allows what we will call the majority of the religion or culture of the country, and the minorities also to be equal. What that means is there is an Arab, at least one Arab party in the Israeli government. There are Arab Muslims and Christians that serve, and Druze that serve in the Israeli government, in the Israeli army, in the police force. There are no Jews serving in any of those particular places in any states or countries in the Middle East. As a matter of fact, every single country in the Middle East, except for Israel, has literally driven their Jewish communities out of their country and exiled them, most of which came to Israel to help settle the state. Let me be clear. If you want to criticize the country, the state of Israel, if you want to criticize the government and the policies, or the army and their policies, or the police and their policies, please do so. It's important. Let your feelings be known. Let your disagreements be known. There is nothing wrong with that. And you must not say Israel does not have the right to exist. And that is what Zionism is. I know, look, I have a 20-year-old child, an 11-year-old child, and a 9-year-old child. I know what words, what rumors, what thoughts are out there. And I know that in many of the younger generations, the word Zionist has become somewhat of a slur or a bad word. It's not, if you understand what the significance of Zionism is. You cannot say, I love Jews, but I hate Israel. I love Jews, but Israel should go away. Because Jews are a part, that we are equal. We are a part of each other. That's not to say that every policy the government does is Jewish. No, of course not. But I would also say in America, I can be an American and disagree with my government as well. Does that make me less of an American? No, it does not. And it's very, very important we understand that. I encourage Dr. Andrew Rayfield, president of HUC, and all of the Board of Governors to take these concerns and these comments very personally and very seriously. I think it's very important that HUC needs to take the movement, not the movement, the resolutions that were adopted at this Recharging Judaism, take them seriously, take them to heart. Do what you need to do. Okay? Because the future of the Reform movement depends on it. If HUC-JIR is not going to be the movement, the Reform Movement's seminary, and there's going to be another one, so be it. But we cannot have a seminary in the Reform Movement that ordains or even admits anti-Zionists. I'm standing pretty clear with this. I hope you all have a wonderful Shabbat. Take some time to think about what it means to be a Zionist and what it means to be an anti-Zionist. Shabbat Shalom.